Guruji, it is such an honor for us to have you in the program with us. We've been admiring you from a distance for a long time. I've never had the honor and the privilege of meeting you in person, but by God's grace, very soon I'm hoping that will happen. Guruji, first of all, our hearty congratulations to you. I don't know where to begin with you. You've got accolades from all over the world, but you've received one of the highest honors in India, the Padma Vibhushan. You deserve a lot more in the coming years. You've embarked on an incredible journey right now. From what I understand, this has never been undertaken by anybody before. It's an extraordinary tour based on the culture of our native Indian society, the indigenous people of United States. Tell us about this.
Well, I think this Monday is… coming Monday is called the Indigenous Peoples Day, which was earlier called as Columbus Day. Well, to state a few simple facts, one thing is Columbus did not discover America, nor are these people Indians. You know, we are the real Indians but they got labeled as Indians. So, having said that, probably most people are not aware of this. These people, these various tribes or nations as they were known, over nearly 500 different nations, each one of them having their own culture, their languages, their spiritual process, their own forms of administration and belief systems, were evolved societies. Most people's idea of a Native American is what they have seen in a Wild West movie, that a few young people are riding saddle-less horses, hollering all the time and shooting at whoever comes their way. It's a very unfortunate image that spread across the world about these people. They were evolved societies, they had cities built. Cahokia, where we went on the way up here, at one time had 40,000 people, population,
Wow.
1,000 years ago.
Wow.
1,000 years ago, London city had 15,000 people, just to give you a perspective. But they had 40,000 people living. If 40,000 people have to live in one place, you can imagine the administration, the organization, the whole civilization should have existed. They can't simply, be riding wild horses and behaving like that. So they had a proper society, there was education, men and women went through education, there was even higher education in some of the tribes or nations like Cherokee. So having said that, whatever has happened in the last few centuries has been terribly cruel and tragic to them, but we cannot fix the history. And there is also the making of these new nations, which is also significant for today's civilization as it is. So this is not about raising resentment, this is not about raising scratching old wounds and make them bleed. Well, terrible things have happened everywhere in the world at some point of time, to some people or to all the people at some point of time. So this is one more like that, very horrible things have happened in the last 3 centuries to them. But the important thing is when something bad happens to us, either we can get wounded or we can become wise with it. Right now, my effort is to bring that healing to these people who are carrying these wounds of pain and shame and resentment within themselves and come out, because today, whatever the laws were in the past, today they are equal citizens in United States like anybody else. So this is an opportunity that they should make use of, participate in the mainstream, at the same time not give up their culture, their tradition, their spiritual process and their ethos of how they related to the land, which is very important for the future of this world. Because our ideas of ecology and environmental sciences are only in textbooks or in universities in the form of PhD theses. But these people, for them environment was in their heart. Till ecological concerns lives in everybody's hearts, there will be no solution. So in many ways, the way these people have lived, their religion, their spirituality is not heaven-bound. Their spirituality is very earth-bound, which is what is most important. In my opinion, one of the worst things that human beings have done to each other is creating this idea of heaven. Idea of heaven is the worst crime upon the planet because This simply means that there is a better place than this. Here, you can destroy everything, but there is a better place up there where you can go one day. If you are so certain there is a better place, I don't understand why have you not gone yet? So this is an earth-based religion where people relate to the land in a way that they see themselves as land. They're just an extension of land, which all of us are. But most people get this only after you bury them. We are land, all right? The soil that we walk upon, the food that we eat, and who we are as a body is just the land. Will we get it now or will we get it only when we are buried in the land is a question, but we must get it now because this is a culture which is a tremendous example of how they lived as land.
Wow.
Well, we can't go back 100% to their way of living, but this has to sink into our hearts that we are land.
Guruji, does the legacy of a land have an influence on its people, whether it is India or North America?
The legacies of the land definitely has impact. Today there is substantial scientific studies showing that how generational learnings get transmitted without any teaching. In India, we call this samskara. That means whatever our forefathers have done, knowingly or unknowingly, good or bad, is all influencing us every day the way we are. So this is no more a philosophy or an ideology, this is a proper science. Lots of experiments have been conducted where it clearly shows generations of animals upon whom they have tested have learnings from the past. So our legacies have a lot to do with who we are. But in India, we developed a whole system how to distance ourselves from our samskara in such a way that our samskara or our ancestral experience of life does not become a trap, but works as a stepping stone in our life. This is why we always strive to distance ourselves from our samskara to a certain point, not getting rid of it, but holding it little away so that it functions as a stepping stone for our well-being, but not as a trap.
Are there any elements of similarity between Indian and Native American mysticism?
See, when we say mysticism, mysticism is not a philosophy, not an ideology, not a belief system, or not a scriptural dimension. Mysticism is a natural inquiry that occurs in human intelligence. If you have an active intelligence, when I say an active intelligence, if you have not crippled it with your own belief systems, if your intelligence is on, it is in the nature of the human being that whatever we may know today, it is in the very intrinsic nature of human intelligence that you want to know something more. So with this longing is handled consciously and you're constantly exploring as to how to go beyond the limitations of your own knowing right now and your own perception right now, that is mysticism. There is no such thing as Indian mysticism and American mysticism or African mysticism, there is no such thing. Mysticism is that you stretch your perception beyond the limitations of your senses, that is mysticism. The approach and expression may be different, definitely it is different. In India, it is very sophisticated and complex, that is that is a fantastic thing, but that is working out as a disadvantage today because it's too complex, nobody wants to look at it. Here, it is what is beautiful is it's very simple, earthy, people experienced it in a very simple way, and because they're oral traditions, the transmission never became very complex. So, I would say that's a difference. The brooding darkness of these woods fed upon the native blood. In the twisted tangle of the fallen wood, the spirit of the fallen Indian stood. Oh brothers, your identity a mistake. Those who crossed oceans did make. The greed for gold and land laid waste the spirit of wisdom and grace. The children of those who by murder did take are taintless of their forefathers' mistake. But those who lived fed upon the milk of courage and pride stand as spirits of defeat and shame. Oh, the murdered and the murderous, embrace me, let me set your spirits to rest.
Oh, you sure appreciate the beautiful words. Touch my heart. Thank you very much.
So here we are, a little bit of a trial run. Close-up sites around here. We're going to an important place, nearly 2,000 years old, built somewhere between 80 to 550 AD, some kind of a fortress. Not a military fortress, but a ritualistic fortress that was built by the Native American tribe.
Guruji, you know, you're a very remarkable role model on an international level. You're an extraordinary intellectual. And as a guru and as a yogi, it's amazing your love for motorcycles, and you're down to earth. You have a great sense of humor. What has been so far your experience in your travel? Because it's not sightseeing, you're really creating an impact from this particular visit of nearly 10,000 miles riding on a motorbike in the United States. You're seeing both seasons, a bit of summer, a bit of fall, and a bit of winter as well. So please tell us about it and the people that you meet.
Well, we started off from Tennessee, Cumberland, where leaves were green, and as we rode up, it became much cooler or cold actually by the time we reached Illinois. But fall colors have already started in this region. Now we're turning south, we're in South Utah. Today we'll be entering Arizona. From there on, I'm sure we're going to be baked with heat, and we're going to California and back to, New Mexico and Oklahoma and back to Tennessee. We've already crossed 5,000 miles, so it is not going to be contained in 10,000. It looks like it'll become 11 to… somewhere around 11 to 12,000 miles is what it's going to be. So what is the experience? Well, motorcycles are not new to me, and above all, Native American culture is not preserved in books, not preserved in scriptures, not preserved in any monuments. It was an oral culture, so it is only about what energies have been left in different places. We are exploring that dimension, and it is very, very powerful and interesting. You please stay with us and ride with me. We will be exploring this at various levels. The longer explorations will happen in a more exclusive way, but the shorter things will happen along the way as we ride. The important thing is just this, that you must have heard that they always said it's blowing in the wind. By being in the cubicle of a car, I didn't want to miss it, so I'm on a motorcycle. It is not my love for motorcycles. I'm in love with everything, whether it's a blade of grass or a sunlight or a moonbeam. Worms, insects, animals, human beings. Some human beings may feel insulted that I love them just the way I love the worms. But they must know that without worms you cannot exist in this world. But without you and me, the world will flourish, the planet will flourish without you and me. But if the worms and insects disappear, life will disappear on this planet. That is the reality of our existence. So, I have no particular love for motorcycles. Well, at one time I crisscrossed India, so I did not ride a motorcycle for nearly 28 years or so. I never even thought about them. But when Rally for Rivers came, people said, "Sadhguru, why don't you ride a motorcycle? It'll be nice for youth." So I was wondering, can I ride? Because the motorcycles that we were riding at that time, the Czechoslovakian machines, and today how they are, and I have not sat on a two-wheeler for such a long time. But when I sat on it, it looked like my body had not forgotten a thing. So it was just normal for me to ride. Since then, I'm having difficulty getting into a car, so I'm blowing in the wind.
Well, blowing in the wind has got tremendous significance, because I heard Dr. Raghuram make a statement that you are a fan of Bob Dylan, and and when Dylan wrote, "How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? And how many seas must the white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand?" And the answer was blowing in the wind, and you did that. Now, you're also a fan of the Beatles, so you've got very interesting background. You like the Indian classical, you've adapted the Western, both cultures. Mahatma Gandhi made a statement, Guruji, that don't be in a room locked up, open your windows and allow the breeze of all cultures to blow on you, but don't be blown off your feet. And you have done that now. So tell us, the same indigenous population, we have a large population in Canada. We have several visible minorities like our own South Asian population living in Canada. What kind of advice would you give the mainstream population in terms of accepting the integration of these cultures, where they, they get opportunities in the Western world, at the same time they're able to maintain their culture?
Well, this is, for the indigenous populations and also the migrant population, everybody is a migrant here, all right, except the Native Americans. But now we are trying to protect them, that's the unfortunate situation. But it's very important they participate in the mainstream. I'm openly encouraging all the youth to get into the universities, get modern education, become economically capable, because these reservations have been crippling for the economic resurgence of the Native American people, because always an outside economic injection never really works for long term. Internal dynamics should pick up and become an economy of their own, at the same time not forgetting their traditions and, the quality of who they were and how they lived. So it's important for the Native American community. This is something that I'm constantly reiterating with everybody that I meet. They must participate in the mainstream without losing their roots. This is the significance of it, because if you lose your roots, what it means is 10,000 years of learning, you throw it away. And now you think you can go and reinvent the whole wheel, which is an unfortunate waste of human life. So they should not give up their old ways. At the same time, they must participate in the mainstream economy, in the mainstream education systems. Whether it makes sense to them or not, they must participate, because it is important that mainstream education, mainstream economy has become cruel to the land. Without an injection of people who have the land in their heart, this is not going to be a solution, there is not going to be a solution. So it's very important they must participate both for economic purposes and for ecological purposes, and above all, for their own well-being, they have to do it.
Sadhguruji, would you please consider including Canada on your next tour of a similar nature? Because there's a large indigenous population here, and there is a huge following for you here in this country as well.
That's a long-term plan you're talking about. At my age, I should not even be buying unripe bananas, so let me see, let me finish this one.
Under these extraordinary circumstances, unprecedented times, during the pandemic, you undertook this incredible mission. What would your advice be for the general public to handle this pandemic at this stage?
Don't handle the pandemics, just stay away from it. Don't go and grapple with the virus, just stay away from it. Because human beings being the carriers, it should be very easy to handle it if they were conscious human beings. But unfortunately, too many are unconscious creatures that they don't know what they're doing. Right now, the statistics shows that 70% of the people who get infected are not even giving it to a single person. But 10% of the people who get it are giving it to 90% of the people. They are the superstars.
Wow.
They're called super spreaders, but I'm calling them superstars because they think they're superstars. So right now, if this 10% also becomes a very responsible and conscious humanity, well, the pandemic is gone. That's all it takes. Please do that.
Under these difficult economic times, what should we focus on?
Yes, economy is struggling a bit everywhere, not just in one country, all over the place. People have lost businesses, people have lost jobs. I would say in the next year's time, all of us may be living as we lived maybe 15 years ago. That may look like very bad for this generation of people, but I want to tell them it wasn't very bad 15 years ago. We were okay, we had much less things, but we were all right. Even now, it is the same thing. If we go back like to a place where we were 15 years ago, we should not complain, we should not make that into a mental pandemic, suicide pandemic, all kinds of nonsense people are talking about today. It need not go that way. As long as people don't starve, we should ensure that nobody starves in this world, because we have enough logistics and technology to ensure nobody starves. If that one thing is taken care of, the rest of it we have little less, We shouldn't cry about it. If people don't understand what I'm talking about, talk to your parents, talk to your grandparents and ask them how they were, what they had when they were growing up, when they were your age, what did they have in their life, how many pairs of clothes did they have, how many pairs of footwear they had, what car they drew or bullock cart or horse they rode upon. Please find out and just understand we are doing better than any other generation ever in the history of humanity. Do not complain. When certain things go down, it's all right, some things are less, so what's the big problem? Only thing is, don't get infected by the virus. In case it happens to you, make sure this virus doesn't go to another person and ensure nobody starves on the planet. Let's wait this damn thing out and we will be fine.
Thanks so much, Guruji. It was an honor for us to have you in the program with us.
Thank you very much, all the best for you. Namaskar.
And we will look forward to having an opportunity to meet with you in person sometime not in the too long distance future. And by the way, we want to wish you a very, very pleasant and happy journey, and the journey would make an incredible impact on a worldwide basis. May God bless you and give you a long, long, happy life. We want you to come to Canada as well and do your bike tour.
My best wishes and blessings to all your viewers and all the people in Canada. Thank you very much.
Please click on the subscribe button and notification bell so that you can be updated with all our content.